Hey everybody, welcome to episode 38 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett. 38.
Wow.
Here with Jimmy Diresta. What's up, Jimmy?
Hi.
And David Picciuto. What's up,
Hey.
David?
Hey.
How's it going?
I'm doing good.
Good. We are all getting ready to leave town.
Yes.
We're all going to go meet in Kansas City in a couple of days for Woodworking in America.
Who else is driving? Just me?
Yeah, just you. You're the only crazy enough person to drive to Kansas City.
Dave, don't you live like 100 miles away?
Yes. I also don't like driving, so it's way more than 100 miles away.
No, it's about 300, right? 300 for you? Maybe two.
I think the drive is 8 hours, something like that.
Oh,
For
yeah.
me, it's 18.
Yeah. So I am flying. I found a really cheap flight a long time ago. So
Well, I want to bring all my everyday carry, my stars, switchblades, all that other stuff I want to carry with me. So.
oh, nice. Yeah,
That's why you drive, right? Just so you can carry all your gear.
Yep, I'm going to bring my
Yeah.
hatchets. I'm going to bring everything I own in the back of my truck.
But now you're transporting weapons across state lines.
No, it's all like tool weapons. They're only illegal in New York, where I am right now. Every other state, you can carry basically everything, including handguns and magnums and rifles. In New York City, I'm the only one. I'm like, it might as well be England where I am. This is the only city I can't carry all the stuff I like to carry, but I do anyway.
Nice. So yeah, I got a box of books being shipped out there directly from the printers. I haven't seen the book yet, but apparently it's done. And so I'm not staying at a hotel. I got an Airbnb apartment, so it's trying to figure out where to ship the box to is kind of difficult. But Vic Teslin from he's also on the same publisher as me and is a hand tool guy. It's being shipped to his hotel, so all should
cool.
be good.
Nice.
Now, I was looking at the layout last night. Lee Nielsen's going to be there. Saw Stop, my new friends. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And a couple of good tool suppliers are going to be there. Lee Valley, so that's exciting.
Yeah, and Vic Teslin works for Lee Valley. Lee Valley Veritas, yeah. So I always get Lee Valley and Lee Nielsen confused. I have a couple tools from both, but I'm not the biggest hand tool user, so I'm sure there's people out there like, Picciuto, stop saying it wrong.
I never noticed.
Lee Nielsen Valley.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just
Lee
jam
Valley.
it all together in one thing and be done.
Lee Valley Nielsen.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we talk about what we're working on, I want to just call out a big thank you to our buddy Joseph Minch.
Yes.
Gave us a donation this week. Awesome
That was
dude. Always supports the show. So I just want to say thanks to Joe for that.
Just as we started, Joe sent me a nice email about my little guy Woody, who passed away this morning.
Oh man.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's been sick for a while, and we expected it, and so it just so happened it happened while he was sleeping, which was actually a relief for everybody. So,
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
so Joe, thank you for that. I'll email him anyway, but it just came in when we started.
Yeah, Joe's
Joe's a
been
good guy.
a big supporter of me for a long time. He's also been telling me to change my name from the Drunken Woodworker to something
really?
else, and I'm
To
like,
Joseph
no,
Minch?
I'm going to stick with it. And then the day that I changed it, he sent me an email, kind of like I told you so. It's great. He's a
Nice.
good dude. I like.
Yeah. So I want to say a big thanks to him and also our Patreon supporters. Our top supporters there are Luis Gonzalez and Jeremy White. And so just want to shout out to those guys and everybody that supports us on Patreon. We're really grateful for that support, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are we working on? What are you guys working on? Are you actually working on anything yet, David? Or is this week number 3 of I'm not doing anything?
It sounds like I'm really lazy, but I'm not really working on anything yet.
When we ask that question, by the way, we're not talking about this exact second.
Yeah.
Within the last week.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking
I
about.
have no real
scope.
projects in progress right now. There's a bunch of them that kind of due shortly because I'm working on some videos with Rockler, a project video. Plus, Rockler was kind enough to send me a laser engraver. And,
I saw that. I was gonna grill you on that. That's
so
awesome.
I'm we have a contract where I'm going to do a bunch of videos for them. Some videos are just for their channel and some videos are for mine, but it's kind of like getting started in laser engraving and laser cutting, and then getting started with the software, and then a handful of actual project videos. And so I got the laser engraver just a few days ago, and I am like, I got the books out. I'm studying it. I'm trying to learn the software. I'm soaking in all kinds of ideas from Pinterest and the web. Instructables is a great place for ideas. So I kind of I don't want to, in typical Picciuto fashion, I don't want to do the normal stuff. I want to come up with some original ideas. So I'm working on things with that. So there's a bunch of laser engraving videos coming out soon. And I got a cool little, I guess would be like a jewelry box video with some fancy hinges and stuff that's coming out real soon. And then I am working on some shop furniture. So I'm I'm rearranging my basement, making better use of the space. And my office is now kind of like the maker space now, because the laser engraver is in my office and the CNC is going to get chopped down to size a little bit, and that's moving to my office. And then, so working on... Are you
going to build an enclosure for the CNC?
Yes, I'm building it. Yeah, I'm reducing the depth of it by about a third, and then I'm going to, like with clear acrylic, make a lid that lifts up, and it's going to... I might do your little light trick, Bob, for your electronics table, so I can still film in there, and then some... like a dust collection hose is going to go in there. And so I'll be working on that. I'm pretty sure I'll make a video on that as well.
Awesome. And another thing that I did with my Shapeoko 2 that I haven't done on the new CNC is I took a strip of those same LEDs with the adhesive on the back and put it underneath the gantry.
Ooh, yeah.
So it shines down onto the workpiece.
Oh, that's smart. So I always get shadows when I do that.
You might want to think about that. The only bad thing about that is it's behind the bit, right? Because the spindle's in front of those lights. Mm-hmm. But, it still gives you more light down on the workpiece. Yeah. So the gantry's not actually causing shadow. But, yeah. And you can run that, if you get that 12 volts, you can run it right into the same power supply. Too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cool.
So what am I working on? I've been so busy with a lot of busy stuff, like small things that I promised a lot of people, some fan stuff that I promised, and but the big thing this week is I'm working on a brand job. I'm not videotaping any of it, but I've actually been Snapchatting a little bit about it, and so it's a brand job for my friends that do all the liquor branding, but it's not liquor. It's a different kind of vice that I'd rather not say because I don't want to get hate mail. But,
let's talk offline.
What do most people do? They drink and they drink and smoke. So it's an electronic cigarette company is what I'm working for. So I'm just doing some branding for them for an event that's going to take place like 2 days after we return. So if I don't get everything done before tomorrow night, I'm probably going to have to drive it to Delaware in a couple of days after we get back. So I've got a lot of driving under my belt coming up. Mm-hmm. And I actually finished a locket star key that's going to be on Make Magazine. It'll probably be up by the time this airs. And also by the time this airs, I'm going to try and get up my chest of tools, the chest of drawers for tools. I don't know what to call it. The chest of tool drawers. Chest of drawers. It looks like a card catalog, but it's not for cards.
Well, get David involved.
Tool catalog, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Tool catalog. We just came up with that right now.
All right, there you go. I was going to say get David involved. He does the,
David's really good. I mean, I don't know. Did we talk about that when he was on? He's really good with like coming up with words and names. Like he came up with the name for the word witchblade and some of the other more clever things because I'm not that clever. I don't know how to spell anything. When he told me we call it the witchblade, which this one or that one, I'm like, you mean there's two ways to spell the word witch? I don't even know. So I learn stuff all the time from David when it comes to the English language. And so I'm working on that. And the videos, I just need to put the gold poles on and then get that final money shot. And that's good. But I've been Snapchatting a lot this past week. I spent a few days up at the house and I got a lot of work done up at the house, working at the house on some customer projects. client jobs. And so it's good. I really need to start cranking out some videos. So all this busy work has been keeping me from actually making videos. And Make Magazine's a little bit on my case. They want me to try and stick to my schedule every other Thursday. So I'm good. I got this one out, and I'm got a couple of more videos done for my book. When I say we made a whole list of videos to do my book on, that I was going to batch out the videos as we went. But it's been taking so much time to get that list knocked down that the ghostwriters involved, well, they're not, they're going to be on the cover. The name's going to be on the cover. John, my co-writer, he just basically looked through all my videos and said, why don't we just use all these? They're the exact same thing, and nobody knows the story behind any of them. So so there's going to be some classics, some new ones, some classics throughout the book. We basically broke it down to plastic, wood, metal, sewing, leather, all these different types of categories. And there's videos cited for each one of these examples.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's just, for me, it's just, I look at the list and I just go, oh God, I'll never be able to make it through that. But we're slowly chipping away at each one of the different categories by choosing videos and choosing to make certain videos that don't exist yet. So working on that, and then playing with my X car, which is a little hard for me because I don't have internet. So I'm running around with like the last page open on the browser, trying to make that work. It's not working for me, but I'll figure that out soon.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That would be tough.
I'm curious to know what Bob's working on, since Bob is like 6 or 7 projects ahead.
I'm not that far ahead. I'm a couple ahead. But actually, before I say what I'm working on, I wanted to do a little follow-up to my recommendation from last week. And I know I don't have to do this, but I feel kind of compelled to do this. So I recommended last week Mr. Robot, a TV show, right? And I had said at the time that I had only watched a couple of shows. Now, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, so I'm not sure like what the tolerance is for like what TV is like now.
Is this a redaction?
This is not a redacting. This is me saying, if you haven't, like, I watched a couple more episodes and was kind of knocked off guard by some of the content in this show. And, I just didn't know that ahead of time, or I would have said something about it with the recommendation. So if you're going to go watch that show, just be aware of the content and the stuff in it. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. I just didn't want that to go unsaid, that like, I was like, hey, check out the show. It will really, surprise you. Okay. So I got that out of the way. What I've been working on, I put out a video today about kind of introduction to 3D printing. And I took just a little problem in my shop to solve and showed the process of like modeling and printing and, like what that looks like. And so that was really good to get that. I think hopefully I'd answered some questions for a lot of people. But since I've done that, I've started working on another longboard video. And I've got it here. I was showing it to the guys on camera. You guys can't see that. But it's for my wife, and she plays roller derby. And so I made her a board in her team colors. And it's got her name printed on the bottom of it. Her derby name. They have like different names.
She's not allowed to use it during the derby, is she?
No, it's roller skates, not roller. Yeah, that would be a whole different game.
Wow.
But yeah. So I've been making this longboard, and it's using a vacuum bag instead of a press.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, and it worked surprisingly well. So
did you make your own vacuum bag, or did you buy a kit?
I bought a kit,
okay,
and it's from a really good company. It's like a really well-priced kit for what it is. But I cut out the form for the board on the CNC.
Oh, nice.
Out of foam. And so I can model it, 3D model the form, cut it out with CNC, and then put the layers of the plies for the wood, glue them together, put them on top of this form, put it all in the vacuum bag, suck the air out of it, and it pulls it down to the form.
Oh, can we see that? Can you hold it up again?
Yeah.
Now that I know how you made it?
Yeah. It's so it's not there's not a whole lot of shape to it. But you can kind of see, there's a tail and a nose, and even like down the length of it, there's like a little curve to the outside, so you can kind of grab it with your toes or your heels.
Oh, that's cool.
As a first pass, it was pretty cool to work with forming, like, bending wood. And so this bag is big enough that I can bend big things. It's like a 70-inch bag, I think, maybe by 18 inches wide or something. So, I could do bending for larger pieces for other things as well. So,
how did you exhaust the air out of it?
It's got this cool little valve on it that you use a shop vac to put it over this valve. It sucks the majority of the air, and then it comes with a hand pump.
Oh,
so you put this little hand pump on it, and it pulls like the last little bits out.
Oh, so you're not using like a little air compressor motor type thing?
No, you don't need to with this system. Most of them you do.
Vacuum pump.
It's pretty cool.
Really cool. So that's going to be a video.
Yep, that'll be up. Right after this or the next week after this show goes up.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's cool. So
excited. Where did you get the veneers to do
that? From the same company. They're called Roar Rocket, and they're out of Canada, I believe. And I'll put a link to them in the show notes and everything. But they sell everything you need to make. They sell the bags. They sell a bunch of different types of plies. You can get them in sets of different wood types and different wood colors. They stain them and stuff, and it's pretty cool though. It's a good system they have set up.
Yeah, I look forward to that video.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to edit because it's like modeling, CNC, bandsaw, painting. It's like a whole big process of all this stuff. But so it might be longer than normal. But
wow. Well, what do you guys call a long video? Because lately, my next video is going to be 20 minutes long.
10 minutes is a long video for me. I mean, most of mine are shorter than that. But I think we've discussed before, I don't shoot for a certain time. I don't know that any of us do for a certain time. We're just trying to tell the story in the shortest amount of time as possible. But if it takes 20 minutes to show how to do something, it takes 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, well, it's fine. If it drags anyway, I watch it a bunch of times, and if it starts to drag, I try and speed it up. But then, thankfully I get some comments where people say, wow, that 20 minutes went really fast, instead of saying it dragged. But yeah, sometimes you got to jam it all in there, and that's what it takes. It's as quick as you make each little snip. It still ends up 17, 18 minutes. But people are watching them, so I'm not going to complain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it depends for me, like watching those as a viewer, it depends on who's doing the 20-minute video. There's a lot of people that, even if I find them interesting, I know that 20 minutes will be a tedious 20 minutes, 10 minutes for them would not be tedious, but like for yours, I can expect to get through a 20-minute video and not feel like it's been 20 minutes, but I still have to set aside 20 minutes to be able to physically watch it.
Of course. Sometimes it's like, it's funny, Dave was showing me his latest video, and we watched it, and I didn't tap the screen once. He goes, wow, you didn't tap the screen once to see what the timeline was. Because, we have a tendency to be like, okay, let me see how invested I am. Tap the screen and go, oh, okay, the red line's a third of the way. Wow, I really got to sit this through. Like that's a little mental adjustments you have to make when you're watching a 8-minute video.
I think that's where, like, when you learn to do different shots and your the way you crop it, the way you shoot it, and what you're shooting. I think that it's that skill that you pick up over time, and that's where it really becomes important to keep things moving along, to keep the viewer interested and entertained, and because you're doing more than just teaching at a certain point. At some point, it needs to be entertaining.
Well, I mean, I know I said this before. It's the same exact thing I learned while I was teaching, while I'm teaching 25 students. If I'm sitting there monotone and not trying to be silly and not trying to be stupid, I lose them. But if I'm goofy and silly and try to be funny and pick on one person that likes to get picked on, they're engaged and they're listening. So,
you said something, and I think it was in that same conversation. You said something about, oh gosh, what was it? Getting in early and leaving early and getting in late. That something.
Yeah. I learned that from a David Mamet book about screenwriting. He said get into a scene late and leave out early. Trust your audience to know what the pieces that are missing are.
Yeah, and so ever since you said that, I've kept that in my mind when I'm editing. And that's become like a pretty big indication of how transition should be between shots for me. That's good advice.
Yep.
Well, I've been making another video I've been working on is the ice pick video where I'm doing a production. I'm making 100 ice picks. And all I have to do is film each little process like 3 times, and then I could just repeat that same process 3 times, crop the camera, flip it, and show it 3 more times, instead of me literally showing me doing 15 times. Mm-hmm. So it's been actually a quick video to shoot because I'm just like, okay, let me 3 of those, give me 3 of those, give me 4 of those, 3 of those. And I haven't started putting it together yet because I'm not done, but it's the same thing where it's like I'm going to end up with 2 hours of video to put together for something that's kind of boring. I got to remember to keep it interesting and quick and fast. So,
yeah.
So,
I was just going to say real quick, I have never been a big fan of multi-part videos, and for the reason is it's just, it always feels like you finish the one and you're ready for the second one, but it's not there yet. And then there's also if the viewers didn't like the first one, they're definitely not going to watch the second one, and you're going to lose that engagement or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or it's possible somebody didn't see the second one or the first ones. And so I've never been a fan of multi-part videos.
I never actually made, the only one I did where a part one of was where I made the table legs, but I never indicated that it was part one of anything. And so coming into Thanksgiving, I'm going to make a full table, and we're planning on having several people upstate at the house, and my friend's going to cook, and we're going to have a big feast. So that video is going to end on the Thanksgiving table. So it's going to be me. So I'll do a little like, hey, remember I did this video where I made these legs?
Yeah.
Today I'm making the table, and then it's going to end on Thanksgiving dinner. So
nice. And real quick before we jump into the subject, another reason I don't like multi-part videos is because I always like to show the finished product at the beginning of my videos. That way the viewer knows exactly what I'm going to make. They know what to expect. And if it's not for them, they can leave right then and there. So
I think I agree with you, but I also disagree with you.
I like that.
Because I think there's a way to do that. And this is me planning ahead, but not having any experience with this. So, I may not really have any idea what I'm talking about. But so I'm looking at my arcade build, and there's no way that could be one video, right? That would be an hour long, even sped up. It's just huge. There's too many things to it.
Do you ever watch, there's a machinist, I might have mentioned his name, Keith Ferner. His videos are like 45 minutes of him just making one hole cut in a piece of steel. And people watch them. They stay through because that's the mentality of machinists, is to do things long and slow. So, if you did put together a 45-minute video, we can call it This Week on I Like to Make Stuff. You can do like the voiceover thing, and you can make it like an epic release.
Well, the way
it's already going to be an epic release. We've been talking about it for a year.
Yeah, if it ever happens,
it's happening.
Yeah. So the way I'm planning to do that is to break the whole project, rather than like just going for 10 minutes and then stopping wherever I'm at 10 minutes and saying next week on, and here's part 2. I'm going to break it down into pieces that work together. So if you're interested in just the cabinet build, that's the woodworking end of it, then you'll see the first one. And then if you're just interested in how to actually get all the electronics working,
that's smart.
That'll be the second one. Mm-hmm. And then the third one will be like the graphics on the side, which, by the way, I got the final graphics from my artist friend. Unbelievable. Nice. I'm so excited about seeing these.
So your way, each piece lives on its own. You don't have to watch them all. You can watch.
Right.
Yeah. That's one thing. Those are the type of multi-part videos that I do like. And it's funny. I just completely forgot that I'm working on the Chevy with a multi-part video. And I had update 1 where I just basically talked about what my plans are. And now update 2 is going to be me actually doing the brakes. And I haven't done the back brakes yet, so I can't do that until that piece is done. So I'm kind of keeping the same mentality unconsciously. Make sure like the one thing is like a chunk of something interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just now realized that I'm going to be getting comments about the fact that I'm going to start doing some videos about my Land Cruiser, and they're going to go, "Oh, Jimmy's doing car videos." I guess that will happen, but that's okay.
That's cool. Hey, you know what it is? It's another tool for us to work on.
Yeah,
because I want to do an arcade cabinet myself too. So I'm when I build one, I'm probably going to film it. So I'm going to be like, "Oh, you're just doing Bob's." I'm like, I've been planning this thing since before I knew Bob. I just like Bob. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole topic that we should not talk about now because I'm actually working on a video about this topic. But
wait. Hold on a minute. I thought about what you're about to think about 2 weeks ago.
Oh man.
I feel like this is Inception.
Yeah, this might be an Inception here. No, but about no, I don't even know how to. Yeah, we all have similar ideas because we're into similar things, and there's a lot of that on YouTube where people who happen to like A probably also like B. So if one of them has done B, the other one will eventually probably want to do B as well. Mm-hmm. And that happens so much, but it somehow gets misconstrued as like copying or whatever. Anyway. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about something else.
Well, you just reminded me of something. You reminded me of something funny that I've blocked out of my life. Is the whole time I spent in the toy business in the 90s, we'd be out to lunch and me and all these toy inventors would be hanging out, and it's such a cast of characters. People always wanted to try and do a sitcom based on the toy business and the inventors, but nobody wanted to be involved because nobody wanted to give up their intellectual properties. A lot of guys have been solicited for reality shows about the toy business, but everyone's like, you know what? I don't want you filming my ideas because then they're going to get stolen. And that's been the biggest part of it. And so whenever we were out to lunch during Toy Fair, which is one time, big one time a year, you'd be having coffee with like 3 or 4 guys, and you'd be like, hey, you showed Parker Brothers? Wait, what category are you working in? Well, I did a thing in the strategy. All right, I'll go outside. You can tell your story. I'm going to go outside. Like, people didn't want to cross-reference stuff. Like you'd be walking around in Fisher-Price because they would let the inventors walk in. And so we'd walk around and somebody would pick up something and go, wouldn't it be funny if... Oh, never mind. They realize they're about to give away an idea. So everybody is guarded and being careful to not cross-pollinate, because then all of a sudden it's like, if somebody goes, hey, you should make that blue, all of a sudden it's like, oh, man, now I got to give you 2 points on whatever I make on this thing, because that is a good idea to make it blue. I should have thought of that. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like there's always this little divvying up of royalties in that inventor game.
I think all 3 of us try pretty hard to, when we make something, we try to make it our own. Like,
of course.
A million people have done a coffee table, but the coffee table I did, as far as I know, I'm the only one with this particular design. And I try very hard to make it my own.
No, it's just like, you know, it's like you listen to different, it's like, you know, we're all making music, and everybody's music is, you know, something someone different likes. But we're all in the same thing. So.
But we're all ripping off the Rolling Stones.
That's it.
And they were ripping off tons of people.
Yeah, so. all the blues guys. So
yeah. Okay, so let's get to our real topic. Now that we've been through that topic,
well,
what's our real topic, Jimmy?
The topic is going to be before the first cut. Is that what we're calling this episode? Before the first cut, and all the preparation and all the things that we do just before we actually start to work, which is for me personally. I always sort of take the lead and ramble on, but for me personally, I usually go right into the shop with a little pencil sketch and a notebook, and I just immediately start cutting wood. Sometimes, not very often, but sometimes I realize I might have made some bad cuts, and I go back and I rearrange it. But I always try never to be wasteful. But before the first cut, I mean, what happens with me, my personal experience is, if a client says, this is the type of thing I want to do, or these are the things I want to make, I start thinking about them, and randomly I'll start to soak up reference on it. And I don't really actively go out looking for reference. Like I hardly ever look on Pinterest, although I know it's an extremely good resource. Taylor looks on Pinterest a lot, and she actually will tip the phone to me and say, look at this. And I'll be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. You know, when she knows it's applicable to a project. But if it's something that needs designing, I definitely marinate on it. So before the first cut, I spend a lot of time just thinking about it and looking at things like it, and looking at different styles. I'm looking at things that don't apply to it at all. You know, like, you know, the way 50s cars are made, for instance. There's so many beautiful lines and styling and little, like, juxtapositions in antique cars. You think to yourself, oh my God, these like lines are so sexy next to each other. And so, you know, graphically, these are the type of things you get inspiration from. And you think, how can I apply that to a set of drawers I'm making? You know, a drawer and a car, you know, they're both objects, but they're not very similar. But these are the type of things that I try to do. You know, I try and gather as much inspiration as possible. And I'm always very flexible. I think it comes across in my videos, whether I'm working on a client job or something in a video. I'm always very flexible where I see a new opportunity that deviates from my loose plan. And then I'll jump on that and I'll start working on something in a different direction, or take it somewhere new. So for me, before the first cut, a lot of time is spent just thinking. I don't draw that much. I do a couple of loose sketches, unless I really have a crystal clear idea. And if it's about a detail, I find I spend a lot of time drawing when it's very specific details that need to be problem solved. But when it's like styling and I have a very clear vision in my mind, I don't often draw that much details. And I never go to SketchUp because I just get too frustrated. I don't know SketchUp that well. And I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I find myself like on a video of some guy speaking broken English trying to teach me how to make a fillet. And I'm like, wait, this isn't me designing. This is me just like being frustrated. I'll just wait till I'm with somebody that knows how to use this program. My friend Ryan is really good at it. So deal with this tomorrow when I see Ryan. But I really try to just let it marinate mentally. I spin it around in my brain. I flip it over. You know how like there's buttons like in a design program where you can like, spin that object in space and turn it over and flip it around? I do that mentally. And it's kind of like in the beginning of it, it's kind of like, you know how you have a dream and you don't really know what that dream really physically looks like? And you start talking about it and you're like, wait, I was in a kitchen. Wait, what kitchen was I in? I don't remember that kitchen. Wait, I don't remember exactly what the floor looked like. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like my project started out like that, like a little bit of a dream. And then as I start thinking on it more and more, I start filling in the details. So I'm done rambling. Sorry.
So for me, before the first cut, I'll come up with like a project idea. Like, okay, I need to make a coffee table. I'll just use that because that's one of my latest projects. And so the coffee table has been on a list of things to do for a long time. And so it's like, I'll just get pushed down the list. I know it's going to have a lift lid, whatever. And then what happens is after I already know that I'm going to make the project, but it gets pushed down the list, something happens like when I go to sleep at night and I'm like, what if I did this? And then
you have your breakthrough.
I have my breakthrough. Because if I sit on the idea long enough, the breakthrough happens. And then that's, I'll sketch it out. I'm not the best sketcher, but I'll sketch it out. And once I have a solid idea, then I go to SketchUp, which Jimmy hates, but I like it because it helps me.
I only hate it because I'm not good at it. If I was good at it, I would be bragging about it all the
time. But it helps me remove any potential for disasters or failures. It helps me problem solve some things, fills in the gaps. And so once I have that in SketchUp and I go to make it, I'm usually I stick to the plan. I very, very rarely will have that, I'm going to do this instead down the road. Once in a while that happens. Sometimes I'll save that for a future idea, especially in little things like boxes. I'm like, next time I do a box, I'm going to use that idea or this mistake to make this box better. But I stick to the plan.
I kind of do a similar thing. I think I've noticed about myself that when I get an idea, and unless it's something I already understand all the parts of, if it's something I know how to do, I'll just go do it. But if I don't know how to do all the different parts, I've found that I make this gap in between the idea and the actual designing of those things or figuring out of the details. I'll make this gap and I'll be like, I don't really have time right now to think through that fully, so I'm just not going to do it right now. I'm going to put it off. And I've found that so many of these projects that I think are actually I think that they need more attention than they actually need to figure out, I just end up pushing them off. The arcade is one of those where there are a lot of details that I'm trying to work into the thing, but really it's if I had just sat down in the beginning, I probably could have worked all that stuff out and not had it, drag on for so long. But anyway, I found that out about myself, that if I let myself see a gap there I don't have time to put towards it, then the timeline just will drift and drift.
I'm the same way. I don't have a part of it solved. For instance, I did a video where I made half a video. It's not published, of the crisp blade, the wavy blade. I made a beautiful blade, and now I don't know what the handle is going to be. And I'm playing with the idea of attaching a tool to it or trying to do some sort of mashup. And I just haven't seen the vision yet that really excites me. I could make some slick-looking knife maker blade handle thing, which just looks boring to me. Most of the knives that I see in the world, I'm like, oh, that's cool. It looks like any one of these hundreds of knife makers could have made the same exact thing. So I'm just trying to circumvent all that for me. Of course, if each one of them have beauty in and of themselves, but for me, I want to just try and do something that's totally exciting to me. And I'm having a hard time finding that vision for that.
Yeah. So I go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes, that excitement, sometimes it's not there, but when you have that breakthrough moment and that excitement hits you, that project then moves on to my next project. And this has happened a couple of times where I'm like, we'll work on that in the future. And then all of a sudden, I got to do this right now. And I'm on Amazon ordering all the hardware that I need for it and everything. So,
yeah, that was my next thing in my notes. Like, once I can get past that gap, and I actually do spend the time to figure out, this wasn't actually as complicated as I thought it was, then I'm like, now I have to go. I have to get this done because I know all the parts of it. It's all in my head. You know, I don't want to lose the context. It's all there. Just go do it. Get it done. Yeah. And so I do that a lot. But I also found that in a lot, not all, but a lot of the things, the projects that I've done, they have mechanisms that I'm not used to. So there's like some sort of a way to connect two different materials that I don't have reference for. You know, I've never really seen how to put like a piece of PVC on a piece of wood that's the same size. You know, like what's the little connection point there? Like what's the best way to do that? So I find a lot of those little things, and it's just a matter of like sitting down on those details and like figuring this out and this out and this out, and then I'm good. I try not to go look for reference on a lot of those things that could be simply figured out. Like if I search for how to attach X and Y, I will find 100 ways to do it. But I think one of the things that I enjoy most about what I'm doing is like just using what's around me and the pre-knowledge I have. What can I do to make this thing work? Even if it's not the best, even if it's not the most efficient. Yeah, exactly. I enjoy that process of figuring something out. Mm-hmm. And that maybe comes back to bite me a lot on projects where I'll publish a video and then somebody will immediately say, well, why didn't you do this? This would have been like way simpler.
Yeah.
You know, and
David, I was just talking about that a couple hours ago because like some people see what he does and they don't understand the fact that he's just working with what's available right there and then. You know, and we're just having fun. We're not making videos that are going to basically tell the next generation exactly how something's done. We're just having fun. It's like, oh, you know what? I got to split a piece of wood. All I have is this dumb axe. Let me try that. You know, he said a lot of people like you should have used this type of tool or that or a fro or this. And he's like, well, you know what? I don't have one. And, you know, I think most people understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that process, and I intentionally don't go out and like figure out how to make a longboard. I just try to make a longboard and it's wrong and people tell me it's wrong, but I enjoy the fact that it's, but I enjoy the fact that, you know, I got to figure out a way to do it on my own. And so that's part of my process is figuring all those mechanisms. And another thing that a lot of the projects I do are kinetic. And so I had a question for you guys about this. Like if you make a box is not typically moving. It doesn't have motion to it. It doesn't flex. It doesn't change, you know, maybe a top or something. But if you make a swing arm for something that holds something, that has to move in a bunch of different ways. So the question is for you guys, do you approach those two types of projects, something that's fixed or something that's kinetic? I don't know, can't think of a better word than that.
Yeah.
Do you approach the design process differently for things like that, or do you is it all kind of the same?
No, for me, it's totally different. If I'm making a box, it's like I don't even have to turn my brain on. I could think about 3 other things while I'm working on it because I know it just has to be a vessel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I make boxes a lot, for instance, as an example, to hold like just trays of tools. Like I'm making all the ice picks. So I made these like little boxes to be like, you know, production trays. But when I'm making them, it's just like not even thinking about it. But if I had to make I'm working on this bike desk thing that I told you I was videotaping. You know, I have to think about all those little steps because nothing's really square. Everything's got to fit around the shape of a bicycle. And so I'm much more attentive to the details and the decisions that I make. So, yeah, no, it's definitely a different process for those type of, you know, those 2 categories of making things. For sure.
Yeah, I think most of my projects are very static and they're just what they are and they stay in that state. So I don't know that I have a good answer for that, but I do know like when I did the speaker build recently where I knew how to make the cabinets for the speaker. Like Jimmy said, I could do that in my sleep. It was when it came time for the Tolexing part. That's where I was like, I had to leave some things open. I'm like, okay, when I get here, now I have to do a little bit more research to figure out how to do. And then I ran into a problem. The Tolex that I ordered was 3 inches too short. So then I had to solve that problem. So, but luckily there was room in there to make mistakes and to figure out how to do what I needed to do.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm thinking like before the first cut. It's really, for me, it's more like before the next step. It's like I jump right in and do what I know is easy. And it's like, okay, and now I have to deal with this part. And like, for instance, you know, this isn't a handmade project, but working on the truck, I've never bent tubes and made brake lines. I've never had to repair them or replace them. And so I did everything right up to that point. until the parts come in the mail. I got the brake tubes, I got the fittings, I got the tool to flare the pipe. I just haven't gotten my brake parts yet, so I'm going to wait till they're all there in front of me. But we did do, when I say we, I'm talking about my friend Willie, who's helped me. We did do whatever we could right up to that point. And so, it's not like I'm waiting to touch the truck until I have that thing. So many projects are the same way. Like when I made the truck bed, for instance, there was a whole series of like breaking open the truck and flipping it out and then figuring out what type of shelves I wanted to make. I wanted to make vintage. I wanted to make all those shelves out of old weathered wood, but I didn't have enough of it. It wouldn't have matched. So I had to use new wood. And if I was going to use new wood, how was I going to do it? And then it might be an opportunity for me to make more. So I'm like, let me make this one this way, and the next one I'll make with the old wood. And so, there's just compromises and decisions you make as you go along.
Yeah, I really try to avoid the unknowns, but sometimes there's going to be an unknown when you get to a certain point. And
that's the best part.
The reason I try to avoid the unknown is because I cannot set aside the right amount of time to do that, because that's an unknown. I have no idea how long it's going to take to solve that problem. I've been suffering with that issue even way back when I was doing web development. I'm like, yes, I can build you this website, but then there's this user portal that you want. That it's a big unknown. There's no way I can give you
It's so funny
time.
You bring that up, because I just I'm kind of spilling. I'm like doing like a brain spew in a document. I'm writing a small article for Wood Magazine, and they asked me to put together something, and I said, "Oh, how about fear of going outside your comfort zone?" That's going to be the title of the article. At least that's what the working title is. And the first sentence is like, how often do we just basically take the same path because we know how much it's going to cost, we know it's going to be solvable, and we know how much time we can put to it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like when you go outside of that comfort zone, all of a sudden you're like, damn, I don't know how much time this is going to take. I got dinner at 6:00.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I'm supposed to do a whole nother project. So, you have those 2 hours and you're like, okay, let me just go with what I know is going to work.
Yeah, I think my tendency is to try to solve all of that stuff, like all of the potential problem, before I do any cutting. And it's just my personality is that I try to think through all the steps all the way to the end, stuff that will definitely change before I get there. But I just try to think through all the way to look at potential problems and try to plan out. And that ends up kind of coming back on me where I spend too much time in the planning process. I mean, again, arcade is the perfect example of that. It would have probably been more efficient and more beneficial for me to just get started on making the part that I understood, making the cabinet part, and not worry so much about how to do the next things to it. Just get to that point. And so that I was moving, so that I had some progress. But my tendency is to just try to fix all of the problems before I do anything. And then, obviously, like we've just said, you still have to be flexible, because no matter how hard you try and how much you think you fixed, you didn't get it all.
I'm making an analogy in my mind. It's like walking through a haunted house. Like you go in one door and you try and leave out the other door without getting killed. And you have all these decisions to make along the way, and you got to make the right decisions to get through the puzzle, or to get through the maze. And then at the end, you leave with a finished product.
So, how do deadlines affect your first cut? Because I know in my shop, most of my projects don't have a deadline. And so that allows me to put them off. It allows me to think about them more. And sometimes you overthink it and you overcomplicate it. But when I have a deadline, that's when I work at my best. That's when I'm like,
yeah, of course.
For whatever reason, I'm like, the design pops in last second, and then I know what I want to do, and then I go and do that.
Mm-hmm. No, for instance, this branding job I'm working on for the electric cigarette company, I have to make these 2 desks. They're semi-complicated, and I talked a little bit about them on Snapchat, so some people might know what I'm talking about. And those were the biggest time suck. They're not complicated, but I just knew that was going to take the most time, because it's a lot of – they're basically like a quarter. They're like 1/8 of a big giant circle, so they're just a big curve, and they're about 6 feet wide. And the top and bottom sill are all hand cut out of plywood. And then there's 2x4s, and it's wrapped with thin MDF, and then the whole thing gets wrapped with 1/8 plexiglass, so it all looks like it's made out of plexiglass, and all black, dark color plexiglass. But making those desks was the most time-consuming part. Not complicated, just time-consuming. So I made those up at the house weeks ago, and now they're due in a couple of days, and I'm doing all the detail work down here in the city, which is, again, not hard, just tedious, but that was the biggest time suck. So when it comes to making the first cut for something that has a deadline, I try and get like the most complicated part out of the way so that I could deal with the details in a little bit of comfort.
Bob, do deadlines affect your workflow?
Probably a little bit. I think I tend to just be more focused. So yeah, for me, deadlines, I think, just help me focus a little more and help me kind of shorten that gap from I have the idea to now I have to figure out all the parts. I think the deadline just helps me like just stay focused and get that stuff out of the way faster. I mean, I really dislike deadlines, and I do my best not to have deadlines on things, or that are not self-imposed. I mean, I self-impose a lot of deadlines on, but as far as like having external, people I'm doing stuff for, I try to avoid that as much as possible because I don't like it.
I also don't like deadlines, but deadlines makes me work harder and better. I don't know why. So most of my deadlines are just self-imposed, but then sometimes there's that sponsored video or the videos that I'm producing for somebody else, like Rockler. I'm like, oh crap, I need that video done in 2 weeks. I really need to buckle down and get this done. And it just makes me a better maker, I think, even though I don't like deadlines.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we all need deadlines, and they're horrible.
I tend to, I'm able to stick to my own deadlines pretty well, though. Like if I can set them, the thing is just like, if I put a date down, for this project, then I can hit it. But the hard part for me is making myself put that date on the paper and say like, okay, I'm committing to this, So that's why, I know you guys are joking about me being ahead and planning a couple of months out of my projects, but that's exactly why I'm doing it. Is if I can set a date down and it's on my screen and I can look at it, then I've got a goal. I work backward from that goal, and it's, even if I missed it, it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm not going to fire myself, but I feel better about the fact that I'm like working toward a date, that I've decided on ahead of time.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we got anything else to talk about on before the first cut?
Well, I think what I just learned about myself is the first cut, it's really, really about like before the next step. I said that a minute ago, but it's really just about like tackling what is easy to do for me. I mean, I'm talking about my own personal experience, just tackling what that you could do right away, put to bed, and then, really, and then while you're doing it, I've said this before, while you're doing it, your mind is marinating on what you're really having hard times with. And, you need to problem solve. So you're like, oh, this is how this goes together. So that's going to help solve that other thing I was having problems with. So,
and to summarize for me, my different approach is remove all the unknowns as much as possible so I can be efficient.
Bob, to summarize for you?
I said too much stuff to summarize. I just won't. How about that?
All right.
You have it all done. Just
my summarization is I need to finish my arcade machine.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's move on. What we've been watching? What have you guys been watching?
So I have this channel, and I don't think I've mentioned it before. It's called Make It Extreme. And it only has, I'm taking a look here, has very few subscribers, 1,498. And so it's a fairly new channel, and everything is just like its title. Everything is made extreme. So like the extreme bookcase table, where like it's this little bookcase that a table pops up out of it. And then there's the extreme glass grinder and the extreme bottle cutting machine, and they're all done in a very extreme way. It's just a really fun channel to watch. I got a feeling it's going to blow up here. So.
Oh, I just opened it up. It looks cool. I've seen that. The suitcase table is very cool.
Yeah.
The guy's got a good concept started already. I love it.
He does. What I love about it is like he only has a few videos, but they're very focused on making things extreme. So he has a vision.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to, I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, Tommo Brine, Byrne. Do you guys know who that is?
Yes. He's the guy that does our animations.
He does our animations. He takes pieces of videos and turns them into animations. So he's got about 10 of them up right now. No, 8 actually. And they're little snippets of funny stories that I might have said or Bob or Dave might have said. And then they get animated with these very pixelated images of us, which look oddly familiar, even though they're so pixelated.
They're like 8-bit characters of us.
Yeah, that's really funny. And he most recently did the thing where I neglected my original tiny lathe got neglected until I bought the bigger one that would be mad at me if it knew that I neglected the other one. So that was super funny. So
yeah, I get so excited when I get the notification that he's got a new video up. So
yeah, that's really cute.
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
Thank you for that.
So mine is it's a really big channel, and so people may have already heard of it, called Corridor Digital. You ever heard of these guys?
No.
So they do visual effects, and they've been doing it for a long time, but they do like really, really good visual effects. And it's just a couple of guys, but they make a lot of videos that are like around video games, but they're kind of brought into the real world. So it'll be them like a real world Mario Kart, through the streets of LA, or I don't know, all the superheroes and video game characters you can think of in like one
these guys
battle.
have 3 million subscribers. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, that's them. But they just do really good stuff, and it's always fun because it's always usually based around pop culture, video game, superhero stuff like that. So it's just fun to watch. They did one, I think they did it, that you may have seen where it was Superman with a GoPro. It was like Superman flying around with somebody's GoPro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they've done some videos that are extremely popular and everything, but they're just really good at what they do.
They showed how they did that, right? And like...
Probably. Yeah.
That was good.
And these same guys are a part of a couple of other channels. They do one called, I think they're still doing it, called LAN Party. And it's them and some other YouTube people playing video games, but they're really funny when they do it. And they all sit in a room together and they kind of trash talk and have a good time. And so, it's just if you're interested in video game stuff or
I'm watching the visual graphics are incredible.
Yeah, they're just really good at it. Really, really good at it. So
incredible. Wow.
Yeah, that's my recommendation for the week.
Cool.
Before we run, I want to tell everybody, well, I guess when you're hearing this, we're already in Kansas City. So I was going to say come see us, but you're either there or you're not. So, hopefully you're there. Come see us.
Yeah.
But if you're not, it would be almost like seeing us if you went to iTunes and left us a rating and review.
I like that.
Leave us a good rating.
Yeah, leave us a good review.
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's what my mother always said.
I like honesty, but you don't need to be mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we do appreciate the reviews and the ratings, and it helps us get in front of more people, which helps us, be able to continue to do the show. And we like doing the show. So do that. That would be awesome. And if you're not at WIA right now, where can these people find out about us, David?
You can find me at makesomething.tv. And I just want to point out that next week, when it comes time to ask what we're working on, I have no time between now and when we record next Tuesday to work on anything. So it's going to be the same exact answer.
You have plenty of time to make origami on the airplane. So there's no excuses.
That is true. That is true. So, yes, you can find me.
We'll just skip you next week.
Yes, please do.
JimmyDiresta.com. And I also want to give a shout out to Saw Stop, who we're going to get to see this weekend. They actually called me and gave me a brand new saw. And it's coming. Yeah, so I'm going to do a little shout-out video to them once it comes. One of our fans saw my saw tipped video and sent it to the marketing team there. And they said, why doesn't this guy have a saw stop? He needs one. And they called me, and they hooked it up. And so that's super cool of them. So thank you, Saw Stop.
Good deal. That's awesome.
Yep.
Good. All my stuff is at iliketomakestuff.com, as usual. So that's it for us. See you guys in Kansas City. And see everybody else next week.
Thank you all.
Keep it real.